Hi, this is Ricardo. Uh, we are gonna make the demonstration for uh, edit recipe ingredients, and the user story that is being tested here is: as a recipe user, I want to search existent ingredients and add, update, or delete them from a recipe so that I can keep record of the ingredients required and their exact quantities. So ingredients, well, the acceptance tests are: the ingredients must be in a list ordered by ingredient name. Okay, so first we need to check what are the ingredients in my database. So let's check that first. So here, this is a RoboMongo. This is um, we are taking a look at the collection of ingredients in the database. So here we have 10 records, 10 documents in the our MongoDB collection for ingredients. So these are the ingredients that I have. All right, so they're all expanded. So the first one is sugar, then flour, salt, another test, chocolate, tomato, potato, um, test, test August 13 and test August 16. All right, so these names should be in order when we're showing in the application. All right, so in order to test it, I'm creating a recipe. So the component for recipe ingredients is here. All right, so the ingredient list shows the 10 ingredients here, and they are in order. They are ordered by ingredient name. So, all right, this is correct. Next, the quantity should be positive, a positive number greater than zero. So the quantity for an ingredient shouldn't be uh, negative. Okay, so another thing that we see here is that we have the validation. So when we touch the form and we don't put any information, the application complains that these fields are required. So I'm going to select flour, and I'm going to try to put a negative quantity here, like -5. So now it doesn't complain that it's mandatory. It complains that quantity should be greater than 0. So if I put 0, it's still complaining. If I put 1, then it doesn't complain anymore. Unit is the same thing. These are the units that I have in my database right now. We can take a look here. So I have 8 units of measure. So we have grams, kilograms, milliliters, liters, each, tablespoon, cup, and there's another one that is test. Okay. So they are also they're also here, all the 8 units. So I'm gonna say that it's 1 kilogram of flour. We can add them. All right. Unit of measure is going to be defined by the recipe user, even if it's not the default. What does that mean? It means that in the ingredient, even if the user selects the unit of measure that is not uh, the default one, the user should be able to add the recipe ingredients even then. So let's check. So flour, actually most of the ingredients here, they have the default unit of gram. Some of them are kilogram, milligram. But flour is in grams. We can check that in the database as well. So flour should be here. So this is the default unit. We can take a look at this. This is calling our API, and it's populating the collection of ingredients with the default units. So we can check flour, and we can see that the default unit here is grams. So it's easier to see than the ID that is in the MongoDB. So it's, if we check, this is the same ID that is here. All right, so okay, so the application allowed the user to put kilograms, even though the unit, the default unit for flour is grams. So this is a pass. Okay, so actually the user can edit the quantity as well. The user can add other ingredients. They can delete them. Okay, so this is it for recipe ingredients. So we in this release, this is considered completed, the user story. So now we're gonna cover the conversion table, and the user story for this functionality is, as a manager, I want to be able to establish a table of conversion of different units of measure of a certain ingredient, so that I can calculate its cost based on the price of the standard unit of measure. There must be, so for this user story, these are the acceptance criteria, the acceptance tests. So there must be only one default unit of measure per ingredient. Actually, this acceptance test is more related to the ingredient itself. We can check the model here for ingredient, and we can see that the model only allows one default unit. So when we check the database, we can see that there's only one object. It's not an array of objects in the ingredient. So for sugar, there's only one default unit. And we can check also in our functionality to add ingredient. So I'm gonna add a new ingredient to create the conversion table. So I'm gonna add cocoa, for instance. As you can see, there's only one default unit here. So I'm gonna go with kilograms, and then this is cocoa. All right, so I'm gonna add this new ingredient. All right, so cocoa is here, and then we can check the okay, so we can check the conversion table. So first, this first criteria here is being covered. Now, so unit and quantity are mandatory. So now we're gonna select cocoa here and check the conversion table. First, let's go to the database, and okay, so here check conversions. There are no records for conversion. I'm gonna create one now. So let's do this. Conversion table. So okay, so these fields are mandatory. If the user touches the form and doesn't provide any information, the application is gonna complain that the quantity is mandatory and the unit is mandatory. So and also the add conversion button is not enabled when the form is invalid. So the user needs to provide both fields here. So let's do this. So 1 gram is equivalent of 0.1 kilograms of cocoa. So we can add the conversion here. All right, so as you can see, after I filled the information, it stopped complaining and it allowed me to add the conversion here, the conversion record. So let's see in the database whether it's been recorded or not. So if we go again to the database and we run this, so yeah, now it returns a record here. We can also check the our functionality in the Postman. This is calling our API, so we're gonna call the API and check whether how is the record being returned. So now we have only one record, and it's for cocoa. The default unit is kilograms. In this case, our API is populating the ID fields instead of bringing only the ID. It's bringing the whole object here. So it's fetching the default unit instead of showing only the ID. It's showing the default unit description as well. And also here we can see the unit that we selected. So for that ingredient, for cocoa, we are saying that 1 gram is equivalent to 0.001 of the default unit, which is kilograms. So okay, so this is in the database and it's being returned by our API. All right. Okay. So these are mandatory. All right. So quantity must be greater than 0. Okay, so now we provided some records, some values here, but we didn't check for quantity. So 0. Now the application stopped complaining about the field being mandatory, but now it's complaining that it's not greater than 0. If it's negative 2, it complains that it should be greater than 0. But if I put that it's positive number, then again it allows me to add this conversion record. So okay, so in this unit, this is the quantity equivalent, and this is the equivalence. We can also check that in the database as well. So if we check the conversions, now there's another one. We can check also in our API, and there you go. So cocoa in liters is equivalent to 1. All right, so it's being returned both in the database and our API. And okay, so if we go back and we open again, oops. If we open the conversion table again, it's returning also the records that were recorded previously. So all right, so it's working properly. All right. Okay, so this story is considered completed.
This is Lisa, and I'm gonna talk about a user story called Detailed Search. This story says, as a recipe user, I want to search recipes by specific criteria, which are categories, keyword, title, author. And the first acceptance test says, the result should be shown in the form of a page list. First of all, let's go to the page of this functionality, which is in here, search. Let's check first the content of the database to see that all the recipe will be listed. So here we have, in the collection of the recipes, we have 8 recipes, which are cereal cake, rose cake, Here is carrot cake, strawberry cake, etc. And here we can see that they are all listed here. So the first acceptance test said that the results should be shown in the form of a page list, and it's not like that in this moment. It's just a table with no page. So the first acceptance test fails. Okay, the second acceptance test says by default the detailed search must be loaded with all the recipes and the search criteria must be clear. So as we already said, all the recipes are loaded, so the first part is fine, and the search criteria must be clear. So the search criteria are here on top, and it is pretty clear because it says search recipe by, and here it's possible to select the criteria. So if we select category, we are searching by category, so we can write for example some category cake. Here will the application will show all the recipes that have the category cake. Same thing for title. If we want to search I don't know, new, here we have two recipes with the word new. The two recipes with the title that contain the word new are listed. So yes, it is clear. And this is green. Third acceptance test says when the user selects a record from the results, the application should present the details of the selected recipe. So let's say that we want to see the detail of this recipe here. We click on view, and the detail of these recipes are here shown, and we can come back. Same thing for the other recipes. I don't know, roast cake. And we can see the details. So okay, this is green also. The last acceptance test says the results should be shown in descending order of submission. So let's check. So this is let's refresh. This is the list of all the recipes, and they are listed by descending order of submission. So August 14, July 19, and so on. So if we search for something, I don't know, like by category, let's search for desserts. So they are still listed by descending order of submission. In this case, the day is the same, the time here is the most recent, 2025, 2023. Same thing should happen with title. So let's reset the results first. Let's look for cake. The results are still listed in descending order of submission. August 14, July 19, and so on. So this acceptance test is green. As for the task that's been covered, the real obstacle was this one, search by keyword, and a good progress has been done, but it's not completely working. So this is red, and as a consequence, all the other tasks, which consist of the integration of this search by keyword functionality, have not been completed as well. while the manual is ready. So overall, this story has not been completed. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. And my name is Louis, and I am a part of the developer team. We are going to cover the acceptance test in its version number 2 for the release number 2.0. And we're going to cover the user story of edit ingredient at this time. As we can see, the edit ingredient is, as a user, I want to edit existing ingredients, information, like name, brief description, units of measure, and so on, so that I can use them in the recipes. All right. The first characteristic we will cover is the description of the ingredient is optional. So if we go to our application, we can see we have already a couple of examples. And if we go to the remote Mongo, in this case, we can see both objects are created perfectly in our databases, right? So we're going to add a new ingredient. Let's say we are going to add butter, and the default unit will be kilograms, for instance. As you can see, according to our acceptance test, the description of the ingredient, it is optional. So if I add this new ingredient, as you can see, the description is optional, but the ingredient was created without any single problem. And if we go to the database and run the this specific query, we can see we have now 3 objects. The third object is actually the butter we just created. Okay, perfect. Now we can see, well, we can say, I'm sorry, this specific task is covered. Perfect. Now, user with the recipe user profile should not be able to change the cost. Well, since we haven't finished the cost section, I'm afraid we are not going to be able to demonstrate this yet. Okay, now user with the administrator or manager profile should be able to change the cost. It's the same idea, right? Now every ingredient should have a name. So as you can see here in the RoboMongo, in our database, all the ingredients has the name, and actually if you try to input this information into the database, it won't allow you. It won't allow you to do it. So as we can see here, let's say we wanted to add a new ingredient, right? But I didn't put any name in it, right? So if I try to add ingredient, we can see it's not created at all, because the ingredient must have a name. Okay? So if we go to the RoboMongo as well, we can see if we update this information, nothing has changed, since actually the ingredient has not been created. So we can say that a specific update test or task is covered. Okay, now in the for the last one, the user cannot delete ingredient once they have been used. We can see this example. Let's go to our application again, and if we go to the recipes, right? Let's go to create first a new ingredient. Let's say the butter. Okay, the butter is created, right? So let's go to add a new recipe title. Let's call it cake in the cake category, right? Let's say we have 6 portions, 4 hours, and the cooking time is like 3 hours, let's say. So I'm going to select the butter, and the quantity, let's say, is 2 grams, or maybe 20 grams. Okay, so I add an ingredient, and I have to add a description. So cake example. Hit submit. Right. So if we go to our session ingredient, and I want to edit this specific butter, I don't have the delete option like enable. So, but let's create another ingredient in order to make sure it's not used by any recipe, right? So I'm going to create here sugar, and let's say it's in grams, and from Venezuela is my description. So as you see, I have my ingredient created over here without any problem. Let's go to see in the RoboMongo, and let's hit a play. Perfect. This is my sugar. All right. Now everything is working perfectly. Now I would like to erase this specific sugar from my ingredient list since I'm not going to use it or any reason. Okay. So I click edit. Now, since I know this specific ingredient is not used by any single recipe, the delete option is actually available. So if I click here, a message will be prompted asking me if I am sure I want to delete this ingredient. If I click OK, you see there is no more sugar. So that means we can say this specific task is covered. So in terms of the task, code edit ingredient in the front end is done since we were able actually to edit the ingredient and validation before delete. Code search ingredient, the recipe list. Yes, actually this is done by Lisa. Okay. So unprepared ingredient user manual is done as well, since I will show you right now. As we can see here in our manual, here over here, there you go. This is the edit and save edition. If you want to delete, you can go to the delete option or section, I'm sorry, in the manual. So you can have it here, edit the button, delete ingredient, and a remark is done here, or is written here, that it says if the ingredient is not used in the recipe, the option delete ingredient will be shown. In order to delete the ingredient, just click this in this option, and then a confirmation will be prompted. So we can see it, that is exactly what we did today in order to edit and update our database without any problem. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Lisa. And I'm gonna describe a functionality of the API that has been implemented but has now been actually included in the website. So this is the list of the ingredients page. Here we added a functionality that allows the user to delete a certain ingredient. For example, rice. I can edit it, and if I want, I can delete it. For some other ingredients, it is not possible to delete them. So the button delete ingredient is not available. For example, for butter, the delete button is not available. That's the reason of this is because the ingredients that have been used in a certain recipe, in a certain existing recipe, cannot be deleted, while the ingredients that are in the database but are not used in any recipe can. So in order to do that, we thought about developing a functionality in the API that allows to return for given an ingredient ID is able to return the list of all the recipes where the ingredient with that ID has been used. In this way, if the list of these recipes where the ingredient has been used is of length 0, that means that the ingredient has never been used and so is deletable. Otherwise, if the list of these recipes has length more than 0, means that the ingredient has been used. So in the front end, we allow the user to delete the ingredient. So this is the code that does this thing, but has not been included in the front end. So actually in future we are planning to integrate this functionality of the API in the website because it makes the things more efficient, more quicker, because now it's we use a different system. So to show how it works, I can simulate. I can just call the URL of the API functionality that I have created, which is in this address, in this URL here, and I need to add a parameter that corresponds to the ID of a certain ingredient. In this case, this is the ID. So if I'm sending this request from the database, I can return the list of the recipes that contain that ingredient. In this case, is just one recipe, this recipe here. So yeah, in the code of the front end, there is also service available. This service here, check ingredient used service, which allows the developer from the front end to call directly this URL and allows the developer to add the ID of the ingredient that we want to find the list of recipes where this ingredient has been used. So the service is already here. It's a matter of integrating it. That's it. Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm gonna present the user story called inventory. So the text of this user story says, as a manager, I want to be able to see a list of the existing ingredients and edit its inventory so that I can plan the bakery's supply purchases. The first acceptance test says the inventory page should present a list of the products and an editable field where the manager can input the current stock of the product. Okay. So the inventory page is under this link, inventory. And at the beginning, it shows all the ingredients that are present in the database. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ingredients, and they are all from the database. You can see they are all here. They are also 10 ingredients, and they are all there. So this is the list of the product, and also we need to verify that there is an editable field where the manager can input the current stock of the product. So each ingredient has an editable field, which currently shows the quantity of the ingredient. If we want to modify a certain quantity, for example, I want to modify this quantity of the baking powder, which is now 900. Let's verify it. Baking powder, yeah, it's here. The quantity. Okay, this is not refreshed. Let's refresh it. Baking powder, it's currently 900. So, and that's the quantity that is shown here. If we want to modify it, I'd put 1000, for example. We confirm the change. If we refresh the page, we can see that the quantity has changed, because every time we refresh the page, all the ingredients are loaded again. And also in the database, we can see the difference, the application of the changes. Baking powder is number 4. So now the quantity from 900 became 1000. Okay, so for the first acceptance test, is passed. Okay, the second acceptance test says there should be one record in the table for each existing ingredient. We kind of already we have already shown that. So as soon as I load up this page, all the ingredients are shown here. Okay, so the second acceptance test has passed. The third acceptance test says stock can accept only values greater than or equal 0. So actually I can put negative numbers still. For example, let's modify this one better. Let's put minus 600. It will allow me to do that. So if we check in the database, is actually minus 600 for the butter. Just the second one. Let's refresh it. Yeah, it's minus 600. So the third acceptance test, which is here, has not passed. As for these tasks, so the front end is actually ready. So this has been done. Screen. The quantity field validation, this is incomplete, so it's red. And the user manual is done. So overall, the whole story is marked in red as not the acceptance test passed. Okay, so that's it for this story.
The profit margin, we are talking about this in My Bakery API. So it's in the side nav. The last part of the side nav navigates us to the profit margin. You can see a change in the URL. It's a separate component. So basically the profit margin, the main purpose we initiated keeping this component into our application is to calculate the profit for each recipe. The profit here is calculated based upon the number of ingredients, time taken for preparation, contents, and the quality of the product, units, and everything. And the profit margin is directly proportional to all of this. So initially we began with keeping in mind the reason for that is to add for every recipe the profit margin, so that we can calculate the entire bakery's keeping every recipe's profit margin. But due to time constraint, we got to narrow it down to the entire application instead of each recipe in the application. So to navigate it, press on the side margin here. So I'll just show a quick movement here. So this will be our profit margin. So initially the bakery owner has calculated the profit margin, so we can change it to that, and the save configuration will change the configuration of the profit margin into the entire application. So let's go navigate to another screen, come back to the profit margin screen, and we see the change there. So we will change it back to 98, save our configuration, go to some other page. Remember, we have changed it to 98. Come back to this and we see that change. So this is how the profit margin is being saved. If we try to add something other than the numerical value, there will be a pop-up like this. Try to save. It gives a pop-up to every constraint that is not a number. See, P86. We have a number and a character. It generates an issue. So if we enter a negative number, it generates an error. Negative number with the decimals also generates an error. Positive number with decimals also generates an error, but I have removed that because there will be a profit margin in decimals. So a positive number, a positive integer can be put. So let's change it back to save configuration, move to other recipe, come back to profit margin. We see what we have changed. So now let's see what is the acceptance test that is being marked for this. So profit margin, the acceptance test, the only acceptance test we have here is profit margin should be greater than 0. So we already have browsed it in validations. Let's see. Let's put -1. It doesn't accept anything less than 0. So 90, it accepts. 90.99, it accepts. So anything that is accepted by profit margin should be greater than 0. So this is the acceptance test. So here I am ending here. My name is Ramya. I'm a developer.
I'm a member of the development team. So for the Release2, my main task is to implement the search by keyword function. So here is the acceptance test. As a user, I want to search recipe by keyword so that I can find them without knowing whether the keyword is part of the recipe name, an ingredient, a category, or the recipe description. So it should return any recipes that have the keyword either in the title or ingredients or in the category or in the description. So let's take a look at the code. Look at the application. So right now, Actually, for this function, it is not fully implemented because I've come across some technical issues that I have spent a lot of time on it, but still haven't totally solved them. So for now, the user can search by the title of the recipe or the description of the recipe. So for example, right now I have 12 recipes in the database. Oh, sorry. So here there's totally 12 results here. So we can look at the homepage. We have 12 results. For example, if I search cake, it's gonna show me the cheesecake here, and you can also type cake with uppercase. It also can list the result here. So the second thing we can check is, let's just refresh the page. So we've got 12 recipes again. So for any of the recipe, for recipe 1 to 10, we have the same description. So we can copy some part of the description and then copy paste here and search. Right now we can see we have only 11 recipes here because the cheesecake recipe do not have the description like this. So the search by title or search by description is actually working fine. But for the rest two parts, search by category, search by description, because we're using MongoDB and it's kind of hard for us to do a cross-table search. So let's take a look at the code here. The two main problems I've come across is the first one. So here, what I'm doing is, when I get the search key here, I use regular expression to make it more tolerant, and then I'm using find one from the mongoose so that I can find the category, either the category or ingredient that has the name of this query item, and then I return the ID of those two, and then I'll combine these two results into an array. So here I use the results, result 1 and result 2, which is the category ID and the ingredient ID. And then I use find by the title or description is what we were testing, and then now we can try to add the category here to see whether if I pass the category ID, it can find the recipe as well. So here's there's two functions here, total and items. We have to change both of this because we need the total one for the pagination and the item to return the actual item. So after we change that, we restart the API and then refresh. So now let's check maybe the cheesecake. So for the cheesecake, it has a category called cool. So if we trying to search cool here, we filter and then return the cheesecake, and we can type the full category name, is still return the correct cheesecake. But the problem is, if I want to search back again, maybe recipe, it's not showing anything here, which is super weird. So here it is showing a return now and the object is undefined. So this is one thing that I cannot solve. I have tried different methods, but still is not showing correctly. So if we okay, let's try back and we can look at the terminal. I have put some console log here. If we take a look at the terminal here, is actually see here it returned the correct category ID and is returning some meaningless strings because it cannot find the ingredient with the name cocoa. So here is the object that is returning. And also here's the query item because we type cool, so after the regular expression we can see the query item looks like this. So the problem is cannot find the title or the description by the query item even though the query item is correct. So this is a problem I have. And the second one is for here for searching the ingredient and return the ID. So it's also not working because it always return. It always say it cannot find and then return the meaningless string. Let's see what we have. So right now if I type, let's see what ingredient we have here, like butter. Butter, okay. So if I type butter, it's again showing nothing. And in the terminal, see here return not a valid ID but the meaningless string here means it means it cannot find the ingredient by its name. So I'm thinking whether there's something about the query item, whether you can get the correct query item here. But still under investigate, so I'll just select it, mark it as red because it's rejected by the acceptance test. Okay, that's it. Bye for now.
So hello friends, our next user acceptance test is edit recipe. So as a user I want to edit the current recipe so that I can adjust the information if necessary. So these are the criteria. The following data should be displayed in edit mode: recipe name, cooking time, category. User must be able to edit the recipe ingredient list as well. When the user is editing, all the required field must be filled. It means all the data is mandatory except photo. The changes must be saved in the recipe, so it must reflect in the database. Number of servings must be greater than 0. Cooking time must be greater than equal to 0. User choice recipe user profile shouldn't view or edit cost or price of the recipe. User with manager profile should be able to view and edit cost and price of the recipe. User with administrator profile should have full edit access to the recipe. And these are the developer's tasks: code edit recipe front end by Tanmay and the other tasks. So let me open the website for us. Yeah, so we will search for the existing recipe and then we will edit that recipe. So here we have the chocolate cake. So we will click on the edit button. So we can see that all fields are in the edit mode. So we can change the name, really yummy chocolate cake. So we can even add the new category like it's sugar free or diet. We can change the preparation time to 20 to 30, 25. Cooking time is 35. We can add the ingredients as well as we can edit ingredients. So we will remove the sugar from here. We can add chocolate to 5. See, 5. Okay, so it will change. You can see over here it will change the quantity of the chocolate. We can change the description as well. Sugar free cake. So we will click the update button. So we can now view the recipe whether it updated the recipe or not. We will check it. Okay, so we can see that the new name with the new servings, new preparation time, the ingredients as well edited, and the description. Now we will see in the database. So we can check over here. In the RoboMongo software, so it's a recipe. So we can check that it's now yummy chocolate cake. Number of serving is equal to 2. Preparation time, cooking time, description, and everything is now changed. So we can check the category. Now we have 4 different category IDs. So we got the 4 different categories. We have the recipe ingredients as well here. So this was our acceptance test. We passed our acceptance test, but we don't have the pricing feature implemented yet. So this will be overall failed. This is passed. This both thing. This is passed. So we will mark it green. This is also passed. We change our database recipe in the database. So this field are more than greater than 0. This as well. So we don't have this 3 field implemented yet. So we will mark it as a fail. So these tasks are there. We already prepared the manual for it, so this will be passed. Okay, thank you. Hey guys, so we are doing a video recording for our ad recipe. So our user story is ad recipe. So as a user, I want to input recipe data including title, categories, which means text, author, list of ingredients, quantity of servings, cooking time, description of the recipe, unit of measures of the ingredients, photos, and save it to the database so I can use it in the future. So what are the acceptance criteria? All the data should be mandatory. There should be at least one tag, which means at least one category for our recipe. The recipe should have at least one ingredients. Number of serving must be greater than 0, as well as cooking time must be greater than 0. So what I have done, I have already started my node servers, but in addition to this MongoDB and Mongoose server and MongoDB and other REST API server, we have to use one more server, Gulp server, by simply pressing Gulp. You can see here it's running. We can see the port is now running on 3001. So what we will do, we will upload the pictures in add recipe in one folder named uploads. So I will delete these 2 pictures images. here. So now there is no picture over here. So now I want to use, now I have already started my node server, so I will just write localhost and so it's loading the website. I will what I will do, I will add the recipe as well as the images for my recipe. So we have to wait for a couple of seconds. Okay, so this is home page. Now I will redirect it to the new recipe. It's loading. So yeah, so there is a add recipe page. You can see that all these fields are mandatory. See, it's required. All are it is required. You can see here I have one new module named one new part in the add recipe page named file upload. You can either upload single image by clicking this and click, choosing single images like this, and either you can upload the multiple images by pressing control and multiple images like this. You can either upload one by one, or you can also remove one by one, and also you can upload all together and remove it. So I will remove it right now. So you can see this submit button. However, it's disabled, which means we can't do anything until we fill all the details of the form. So I will put pizza. I will at least put one category, so until it won't work. So one is pizza and one more Italian. Number of serving will be 1, preparation time will be 15 minutes, cooking time will be 10 minutes, ingredients. So what will be our ingredients is cheese, bread, office will be the pizza base, 1 unit will be each. We need tomatoes for toppings, so it will be 100. So you can see here 100 grams. So here is the description, which you can also write steps to follow, like job, cut all the toppings and put pizza base in the microwave, or you can put in the oven for 15 to 30 seconds. Okay. Now it's enabled, so we will choose the multiple. We will upload the 2 images for the yummy pizza. So you can see here 2 upload button and 2 remove buttons, or either you can upload all at once. So what I will do, I will press upload all. You can see now these buttons were disabled and the remove button it's now enabled, so you can now remove it. But as well as here it happens same, the upload all and cancel all it's already disabled. So what I will do is press submit. So you can see all my recipes, the new recipes here, as well as there was no pictures over here, but now there is a 2 images which we just uploaded. As well as you can see here in the cult server there are 2 images which we just uploaded in the destination name uploads, and the image folder is jpg. You can even change the format. Also you can see the images and the recipe are updated in the database. So now all my recipe, all my tastes are passed. So what I will mark it to the green. I did all the ingredients, all the data. It's mandatory. You already seen that. There we have to input all the data which are mandatory. The cooking time must be 0. Recipe should have at least 1 ingredient, and these photos as well. So I will mark it as a green. So my test is passed. Thank you guys. Thank you for see you again. So friends, now we will show our next user acceptance test. So the previous one was the add recipe. So now we will see the next one is a recipe detail. So let me find. Yeah. So the next one is a view recipe general detail. So what is the acceptance test? So as a user, I want to view the details of the specific recipe so that I can use it, prepare the recipe, view the ingredients, or edit the recipe. So what are the criteria? The recipe data field must be the read only, as it is just a detail. It is just showing the details. The next one is the following data should be displayed: the recipe name, number of serving, cooking time, author, description, category, text, unit of measure, and other things. The next one is a user with recipe user profile shouldn't view the cost, and user with the manager and administrator profile should be able to view the cost of the recipe. Okay, so we will go to the website localhost 4200. Loading. Okay, so now we will search for the previous recipe. So there is one recipe, chocolate cake. So here is the view button. We will put it over here, view. Okay, so we can see that the first one is a recipe name, then the category, number of serving, preparation time, cooking time, the table of the ingredients, as well as the description. So you can see that the edit button was, so when we click we can even edit the recipe from the here. So all these fields are the just a view read only mode. So it means it passed our first, second, and only, yeah, first and second test. So we can mark it in the green. Now we see that the user with the user profile and user with manager and administrator profile should be able to view the cost. So we have not implemented the pricing stuff yet, so it will not show it. So this will be red. Okay. So it will fail our test. Okay, sorry. So we can see that we are missing these two stuff from here. Yeah. So we are missing this stuff from here. Yes. So thank you for this test.